Hello everyone, we are presenting to you our communication entitled The First Games of la Francophonie in Morocco 1989 and France 1994 as reflections of multilateral sports cooperation or as national issues. First, what is Francophonie? This map represents current Francophonie which brings together 88 states. The word Francophonie was used in a purely descriptive way by geographers as early as 1880, the word having been invented by Onésime Reclus. It was after the Second World War, starting with a special issue of the magazine Esprit in 1962, that a Francophone consciousness developed and then was popularized by Leopold Sédar Senghor. It is therefore in this sense that it is necessary to understand Francophonie, having in common a Francophone language and culture than of official decisions or objective data. It's a community of interest. It includes the idea that French will be the common point of different peoples, uniting them in a cultural and linguistic ideal. Speakers of French felt strengthened by the omnipresence of the English and the influence of Anglo-American culture after the Second World War. Only then did the conscience of the Francophone community awaken with a desire to unite to defend a possible Francophone cultural exception. Faced with the Commonwealth existing since 1926 and then integrated into the Declaration of London 1949, in order to take decolonization into account, how is Francophonie set up? From the idea to the reality of Francophonie, here are a few lines of the stages of the construction of Francophonie. First of all, it is not possible until the process of colonial independence in French Africa was completed, what was done in 1960 with the creation of the Conference of Francophone Ministers of National Education by bilateral agreements. The following year, in 1961, the French-speaking Universities Association was created. This made it possible to strengthen ties between French-speaking governments since bilateral agreements became multilateral. In 1967, the International Francophone Association of Parliamentarians and the Conference of Francophone Ministers of Youth and Sports were created, and during the first conference, the African leaders wished to materialize the Francophonie by addressing the youth. Thus, in 1970, at the second conference, the Agency for Technical and Cultural Cooperation was created, which strengthened the links between ministries of cooperation, national education, foreign affairs, culture, youth, and sports. This required the merger of Confemen and Confeges in 1978 in order to pool the youth-oriented objective and educate it to the Francophonie. This institution later became the International Organization of la Francophonie in 2005. But what about sports in the French-speaking world and the context that makes this interest in sport emerge in the Francophonie? As can be seen from these two maps, the two Francophone and Anglophone spaces are in cultural and geopolitical competition. The Commonwealth Games existing since 1911, allowing the British Empire to develop its cultural hegemony, the constitution of Francophonie as an organic community through the cultural dimension, it must use the Western sport inculcated in the former French colonies as a means of universalizing the plural values it shares. A counterforce, a kind of soft power, where sport becomes a means, among others, of this cultural war. Starting in 1985, the Francophonie summits are held every two years, and the heads of state or government discuss international politics, the world economy, Francophone cooperation, human rights, education, culture, and democracy. The summit is also used to define the points you can see on the slide. It was during the second summit in Quebec that the Jeux de la Francophonie, and therefore the Comité International des Jeux de la Francophonie, were created. We can briefly mention the objectives of the Games of la Francophonie, which include those of the Olympics, the regional games, and the values of major international institutions such as UNESCO and United Nations. The challenge is to define the contours of a Francophone exception and a specificity that would not only pass through language, but also through the body as a place of incorporation of values and spirits. The youth is specifically targeted. Thus, the first two editions of the Games are organized by Morocco and France, so what are their interests? Are the two editions a reflection of multilateral sports cooperation in this area of the Francophonie, or national issues? The first Games of la Francophonie took place in Morocco, a former independent French protectorate since 1956. Morocco wanted to play a leadership role in the Arab world, especially faced to Algeria, Tunisia, and Egypt. With this experience of the Mediterranean Games of 1983, the King of Morocco, Hassan II, also saw another opportunity to show the influence of his country and also a promotional tool for his reign. Indeed, the Games are of political importance at a time when the Arab Maghreb Union became official in Marrakech in February 1989. In the picture on the bottom left, the five heads of state aim to hide the deep divisions that crack the idea of the Greater Maghreb. In order to avoid any division, the Games bring together the countries of the north and the south, but during the opening ceremony, François Mitterrand was expected but did not come. In addition, the folklore event is great even though sports events are limited to 4, while the cultural events are more numerous with 7 competitions. Indeed, cultural events were not part of the Commonwealth Games. It was a way to stand hard from the English speakers, while reminding them of the attachment to Coubertin. Suggesting that body and mind are two pillars of the Francophone mind, and that performance will be ancillary to cultural exchange. It's a utopia faced to another one. Mitterrand were not there, but France is very present, because for this first edition, the International Games Committee was created by the State Secretariat in charge of youth and sports within the French ministry, managed by Jean Ferrignac. The later former sportsman was headmaster of the Font-Romeu High School and then became the National Technical Director of Handball. In 1988, he was appointed to the French Ministry of Youth and Sports office as a technical advisor and then project manager. He was entrusted the executive secretariat of the International Games Committee in 1989. Not only is France in control of the technical organization of the Games, but it was also in the lead in medal ranking, followed by the other Western countries and Morocco in third place. France strengthened its position as a leader in this area of the Francophone. Did it then continue to hold this place? These games are an opportunity for the exchange of experience and technical cooperation, as well as the promotion of Francophone athletes or coaches. This is the case for the presence of confirmed athletes who won gold medals at the Games and are role models for young generations to follow. It is an expression of the success of the Francophone sports model. Finally, these games are also there to bring out new sports talents, especially for France, who made the fine days of the French team with many medals. The Games of la Francophonie thus offer a space to detect emerging athletes, the strengthening of exchanges of sport cooperation via INSEP through internships, scholarships, and perhaps intentions of naturalization for athletes in certain disciplines. The second edition of the Games of la Francophonie takes place in Paris and Bondoufle in the department of Essonne, approximately 35 kilometers at the south of Paris. Just after La Balle's speech in 1990 at the 60th Conference of Heads of State of Africa and France, the French President François Mitterrand invited the countries of Africa to a modernization process under threat of being deprived of the support of the North. At the end of the Cold War, public aid is thus linked to debt under the condition of democratization and multi-party system. His inauguration of the Games was then in full left-right cohabitation, and Mitterrand opened the Games at the Louvre. The occasion is given to create the anthem of the Games, and the number of sport and cultural disciplines is increasing and makes it possible for the first time to showcase disabled athletics. These Games reaffirm the desire to federate the Francophone community and are an opportunity to confirm the New Deal with Africa and the French-speaking countries of French diplomacy and influence. At the sporting level, the second Games offer several phases. First, athletes who, by their victories, are expected to become Olympic medalists like David Douillet, Donovan Bailey, or Chantal Petitclerc. The latter are major outsiders or rising stars such as Salah Issou, Hicham El Guerrouj, or Cheikh Tidiane Touré. Touré was naturalized in France in 2000, illustrating the usefulness of the Games of la Francophonie in detecting talent for France from its former colonies. Finally, the Games are also revealing of local issues integrated into national issues. The French deputy Xavier Dugouin, president of the Right French Party, and also the general counsel of the Essonne department, and mayor of the city of Mency, wishes to take advantage of the Games to become a future minister. However, because of the cohabitation, the Games were cancelled in 1993 and postponed until 1994 because of the refusal of the left government to pay a loss. The right power relaunched the file by associating Paris and the state, and two right-wing ministers were appointed to head the Games Committee: Jacques Toubon, Minister of Culture and the Francophonie, and Michel Alliot-Marie, Minister of Youth and Sports. If the two most modest facilities, the dojo and the room of Épinay, find their place in the local sport fabric quite easily, it is not the same for the three main achievements of these Games: the Mency Pool, the Bordeaux Stadium, and the Grand Dome. There be 445 million of francs, almost 10 times the amount of the initial estimate for the five equipment you can see on the slide. Since 1992, the department has already spent 350 million of francs, and the budget has also doubled. Finally, the fuel receipts do not cover maintenance costs. The water basin in 2008 and the Grand Dome in 2015 even had to close their doors and have been taken over by the French Judo Federation for the first one and by two private partners for the second one. As for the person responsible for this disaster, Xavier Dugouin, his stay in prison in 2001 did not prevent him from resuming his town hall of Mency in 2008. A large part of the sports facilities become white elephants and will only be able to find one used at the future Olympic Games in Paris in 2024, perhaps. We thank you for your attention and we are open to your questions.